What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to the show. Here today in front of me is the redesigned 2021 Mercedes-Benz GLA 250. It's got a bunch of new features inside and out. We're gonna go over all of those for you guys today. We're gonna take it on the road and see how it actually drives. So let's get into it. All right, so here it is, the 2021 Mercedes-Benz GLA 250. This is the second generation. Now, it does have that turbocharged 2-liter under the hood, putting down power with Mercedes-Benz 4MATIC all-wheel drive system to all four wheels, makes 221 horsepower and 258 pound-feet of torque. And visually, as you can see, first off, it looks much different and in my opinion, a lot better than that first gen. It's a little more seamless, but let's head out on the road, take it for a drive, and see how it does. So the brand new redesigned GLA. Now, I never drove a first gen GLA. I've never experienced one of those cars. I think they're incredibly kind of funky looking, I guess is the right term, especially the AMGs with the wing. I did drive the CLA 45 AMG, the previous generation, or I guess the first generation, which is a very similar vehicle, just lowered and more hunkered down. But with this new gen, what you get is a physically taller vehicle, right? Whereas the first gen GLA was kind of unsure as to which segment it kind of fit in really well within the automotive space. But this new GLA is physically taller, but it is actually shorter. The wheelbase is longer, but the body of the vehicle is actually a little bit shorter. So what you get with that is a very tall and stubby looking crossover. Traditionally, 10 years ago, an SUV would be like a Ford Explorer sized vehicle or like a Mercedes ML. That would be the traditional size of an SUV. But now in 2020, things are mixed up. You got segments that are in between each other. And this GLA is the smallest and the least expensive way to get into that SUV segment as far as a Mercedes goes. So the GLA 250 starts at $42,000 Canadian. This one, which is basically fully spec'd out as far as the tech and the interior is concerned, just about. And it comes out at right about $50,000 Canadian on the nose. So basically this 250 has been spec'd with the technology package, the premium package, the parking package to note or to start with. So basically with the technology package, you would think that that includes all of the interior tech and the safety features, but what that actually includes is the multi-beam LED headlights, the auto on and off high beams, which also dim, which is pretty cool. And when compared to a couple of other vehicles that I've driven with the kind of auto high beam feature, some of them are just terrible and they don't turn off soon enough, and then you end up getting pissed off people in the other lane coming at you, flashing their high beams, telling you to turn your high beams off. And here I am sitting in the car being like, I don't have control. The car's taken over, it's auto high beams. But needless to say, this Mercedes-Benz system that you get with the tech package is actually quite seamless, and I haven't had to manually turn it off to save another person's eyes yet. And then another thing you get with the technology package is in fact radar cruise control, which is a must-have. So So in my opinion, if you're going for the GLA 250, the base model, you should absolutely spec it with the tech package just to get that radar cruise. It is the best invention ever. And then after that, you have the premium package. Now this is another one of those packages which is extremely expensive. It's about $3,600 Canadian for this package, but you do get a number of must-haves once again, which is the upgraded screens up here. So the LED screens you get standard are 7.5 inches diagonally across, whereas these upgraded ones are 10.25 inches the whole way across. And they are beautiful screens. The interior here on the GLA 250 is probably the biggest change apart from the exterior that you'll notice with this vehicle. And it embraces all of the modern kind of AMG pieces from the Mercedes parts bin that have kind of trickled down now. So what these vents here, basically these are open when they're horizontal, you twist them to the right vertical, they are closed. It's a nice click design. Now, some of the pieces are still, you know, hard plastic and they are not of AMG quality, but all of the base stuff and the leather you get, this Napa leather steering wheel, all of the leather trim on the doors. This is what I found. The Mercedes is so good at isolating you in their vehicle. The sound deadening is on point. The interior experience on a base vehicle for $50,000 Canadian is pretty outstanding, especially when you're comparing it to some of the Japanese manufacturers. So it's really nice to see Mercedes has embraced this new tech. I do have something on the screen here which I wanted to show you guys, which are some of the options you get if you do go with the premium package and these screens. So on the left-hand screen here, you have all of your actual driving information, and you can change the look of this from classic. So there you have it. It'll actually change to normal needles and gauges there, or you can go into sport, which is what I personally enjoy, which is a very dark kind of theme with the orange numbers on your tach and your speedo. What you also get is the ability to talk to your car. Cars are getting so weird nowadays. It's very fun for us specifically to be able to go out and film like an 800 horsepower Evo 8, let's say, a 20-year-old vehicle that we did a couple weeks ago, and then get back into something extremely modern and to have the ability to go, hey Mercedes, please turn the cabin temperature to 20 degrees Celsius. I'm setting the temperature to 20 degrees, if you missed what she said. So that's phenomenal. Things like that make life easier are really great, because that's one step closer to being more productive when you're just like commuting somewhere or just have to transit somewhere in a vehicle. And I think the GLA is perfect for those people that like to be higher up, but don't necessarily need the cargo of a larger SUV. I think it is a little small. It does not have the third row of seating. If you're looking for the third row, you have to go with the GLB, and then there's the GLE above that. Like I said, a truly incredible amount of offering in the SUV market. This 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder, like I said, making 258 pound-feet of torque from, I believe, 1,600 RPM to 4,000 RPM. So it's got a really meaty mid-range power band. Now, for all of the new GLA models, as standard, you're fitted with the 8-speed dual-clutch transmission, whereas the previous generation was a 7-speed. The diesel, I believe, for the new gen still has that 7-speed, but this one has been fitted with the 8-speed dual-clutch. Such a seamless transmission. I love it in comfort mode, in auto mode. I love it in manual mode. While not the most responsive dual-clutch and not the most responsive tune on the gearbox as compared to some of the other AMG offerings. I drove an AMG GT about a year and a half ago, and that gearbox seemed to be tuned a little more responsive. And definitely when comparing this to, let's say, the M340i from BMW that we drove, that dual clutch in that car seemed to be a little bit more responsive when you're in manual mode and using the paddles. Now, while the GLA 250 is absolutely not a performance vehicle, the base engine here is plenty enough for anybody. I mean, 100 kilometers an hour there. No issues, no issues. And it's still a huckable car. It's still at a size where you can comfortably toss it. I'm not really an SUV guy. I think if you're looking at the GLA, I would have a tendency to just go kind of down a segment, I guess, and go into the hatchbacks and stuff, because they tend to be a little bit cheaper. You can still get all-wheel drive, and you can still get effectively the same amount of space here if you shop around correctly. But it does have full 360 cameras. It has full top-down, every possible camera angle and sensor to help you not be an absolute idiot. I'm talking to you Richmond folks. Richmond Learns to Park, great laugh on Facebook. But it's got all the assists that make it incredibly easy to drive, and that's what I think the Mercedes lineup, even when you're looking at the base models, I think that's what they do a great job at really giving the customer and the driver is an easy experience. Yeah, the torque is just fantastic. I mean, any normal person getting in this car will feel that turbo spool up for the first time and absolutely be sold. It's not something you think about on this vehicle. Am I lacking power? It's just not something you really think about, which is nice. Whereas some of the other Asian manufacturers with their base models are still putting out engines with what I would call less than adequate power, even just for like a normal person. But see, it'll still rotate. It's got Mercedes 4MATIC all-wheel drive system, right, which is front bias. Until it senses it needs to send torque to the rear, which this does very flawlessly. You will never, I mean, under normal conditions, you'll never really feel it working, which is a very good thing, very seamless. When you move up in the Mercedes lineup, you do have the larger SUVs and some of the other vehicles that have a rear bias all-wheel drive system. Those will be fitted traditionally on the AMG models. But as far as the GLA is concerned, the 4MATIC works wonderfully, and you can really go hard into a corner and the rear end just rotates, and there's not much understeer to be had here. Now, sport mode, effectively, from what I can tell, it really just makes that throttle sensitivity, it just bumps that way up. So what you're really feeling is a more sporty experience, I guess. The steering gets a little bit more precise, it feels like. It's not as cushy, and the suspension as well. It's not a huge noticeable difference, actually, and it's not too crazy. The car's pretty planted for any normal driving. Obviously, you're not taking this to the track or anything. It's not meant to do that. But there is a lot of confidence and a lot of grip. And there's not really a feeling that the car's going to topple over. It actually handles closer to, let's say, a CLA than like a GLC or a GLE, which is really good. Yeah, it's cool though, kind of comparing this to, let's say, a Subaru Legacy, which is, from what I can tell, side by side, isn't any shorter than this. This is basically the same height as that car. And the Legacy is a wagon, but now in 2021, Subaru's kind of gone with a little bit of a different approach and basically just jacked up their wagons. But if you need to be higher up, and you don't see any hatchbacks that drive the way you want or have the luxuries that the Mercedes-Benz offers, then it's a good option. And I think for the price, even though the options, yes, can be expensive, but I think Mercedes has a great package here, and the touchpad, this new touchpad on the interior, takes a little bit to get used to. I, in fact, love it. A lot of people prefer the old knob. I think you get used to this touchpad, and it just works wonderfully, especially in combination with the voice commands. So thank you guys so much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit me up on Instagram at Roads Untraveled. You can kind of see what we're shooting on a day-to-day basis. We also have our website that you can go check out as well, with a bunch of merchandise and products up there. That's roadsuntraveled.com. So until next time, this has been the GLA 250, and we'll see you soon.